Hello and welcome to this new ER2 modding SDK tutorial. Today we're gonna learn how to create custom animations for our custom weapons using Blender. So first, let's see how your weapon should be composed. So here we got the high poly and the LOD, which is the model that is displayed at distance of your weapon. And both are parented to a generic empty that holds all the parts. If you don't know how to create an empty, just go here and choose Add Empty Plane Axis. This is gonna be the root of your weapon. Notice that the root of your weapon normally should be near the trigger area. And again, every individual part should be parented to it. The same is for the LOD. You can create an LOD in various ways. An easy way is just to use a reducer modifier. The individual parts that you want to be separated are in particular the magazine, the charging handle aka spin, of course the main body of your weapon, and other smaller parts that you might want to move during your animations. For example, the dust cover, which might get opened in this weapon, for example, when equipping it. Or, for example, some chains or some straps that moves with gravity when you shake your weapon during your reload, or whatever you want to, animate during your animations. Differently from the weapons that you can animate in Unity, which can be prefabs set up with a little bit more freedom, the weapons that you're gonna animate in Blender cannot be edited in some aspects inside your Unity prefabs. For example, once you set your pivot position, you're gonna use this for your animations and you can't change it inside the game. The same applies for the scale of the weapon. Once you choose your scale of your weapon inside the Blender model, you're gonna export this weapon inside Unity with this scale, and during the creation of your prefab, you're not allowed to rescale the weapon anymore. And during your animation process, you're gonna use the same scale you have here. So you have to make really sure that the pivot point is in the positions you want. Again, this should be the position because this is the position that the soldier will use to grab the weapon in third person. And also make sure that the scale is correct. To have a correct scale, considering that a Blender unit is the length of a meter inside a game. So this weapon, which is just a little bit shorter than a meter, it is in fact just a little bit shorter than this Blender unit. So once everything is correct, you can choose all of your model and choose Ctrl A and apply rotation and scale. Then, when exporting the model, choose FBX and choose Apply Scaling FBX Unit Scale and apply transform. And now you can export the model where you want. I'm just gonna overwrite this older version I have. So once you have exported the model inside your Unity project, you can first set up your weapon inside Unity just to make sure that everything is correct. We're not gonna do that right now. We have a tutorial dedicated for that. So I will just assume that the weapon is correctly set up and works perfectly. And now, considering that everything is good, we can proceed with the actual animation process. Johnson, the animator for ER2, is gonna explain you how to do that.
Hello, my name is Johnson, the main animator of the ER2, and today I will show you how to make animations for the game, mainly for modding communities. So I'm animating in Blender. This is my preferred software, so open up the Blender and you will be provided with the file called ER2 animation tutorial. So in order to do that, go to File, Open, and you'll probably be having that in Downloads, but I have it in my work folder. Okay, this one. So this is my first-person rig that I created for working on that game. It is very straightforward, but I will explain how it works later. Right now, I will show you how to import a model of the weapon that is set up for this game. So Marco will explain how to prepare the models for Unity and ER2 and animation itself, because I don't have that knowledge, but it will be like a postscriptum kind of tutorial to that. But anyway, once you have the ready to use model, go to File. Wait, first of all, before you do that, go to Scene Collection, click that. Click New Collection right here, the little box with the plus symbol. Click the collection for. Control left click on this icon. That way only this collection will be visible. It's important to have separated collections, because you don't want meshes to be merged with a rig, I don't know, skeleton or something else. Everything has to be organized, so we are minimizing any errors, bugs, and other issues. So once you have that selected, go to File, Import, FBX, and we will be animating an M4 from Sketchfab. It is free and will be perfect for the tutorial we'll be conducting. So you will have two models, one for LOD, mainly for NPCs and third person, and the main gun right here. So since this tutorial is for first person, we will not use the LOD, so we will use that collection 4 we just created to organize this. So what I like to do is generally create the sub collection under that. So click the collection 4 again, new collection, and this way collection 4 and 1 will pop up. So now click on the M4 LOD, right click, select hierarchy, and move it to that sub collection. So now we can entirely hide this LOD model, so it will not get in our way. So yeah, we have just the main model. So the next step is to have the model to be set up with the skeleton itself. Right now, this is the rig. This is what you are gonna be animating with. So a rig and skeleton are two separate things. So this is the rig collection, where the mesh uniform, the hand meshes are, everything you need to have to animate. And in Rigroot, this is the skeleton itself. I like to separate skeleton and rig, so they are in separate collections. That way it is a lot easier to bake the actions, bake the animations, and be ready to export without fiddling with what bone, what layer is ready to export. But anyway, so since we have the model, now we need to, like I said, select the skeleton Rigroot collection, and now we need to create the weapon bones that will be parented to the center spine. This is the root of the skeleton, and any new bone we will create will be in hierarchy like this. So the main bone of the M4, so the M4 rifle, will be parented to center spine, and any additional bones like the magazine, the charging handle, will be the child of that new M4 bone that is parented to center spine. So we are going to do that. So in order to have the perfect weapon skeleton, we need to have the bones exactly where the meshes are. So this is the main parent of the weapon itself, and the bones will have to be the same name of the mesh. So this is named M4 rifle, this is M4 magazine. The bones will have to be named the same as the meshes. So the first step is to create a bone for that M4 rifle parent. So first thing, go to, select the thing, go to object properties, and here is the name of that empty. So Control C, copy the name, and now select the skeleton on the scene. It will be in pose mode, but one step back. When you have the selected empty, I'm in the mesh, you want to now, and copy the name, you want to now hit Shift S, cursor to selected. That way the cursor will snap to the position of the mesh you want to make a new bone, so it will be in the perfect position as the mesh itself. So once you have the cursor right here, select the skeleton, hit Tab, now Shift A to create a new bone. Okay, it is right here. It is named bone, so we have to change its name. We are still in object properties, so in order to change the name, because if we would change the name right here in object properties, we would change the name of the whole armature, not the individual bone. So we need to go to bone properties, and right here, Control V, and for rifle. So yeah. So we have a new bone. Now we can repeat the same process for the magazine. So select the magazine, Shift S, Control to selected, cursor, sorry. By default the meshes are in object properties, so we didn't have to deselect the window. Copy the name and for the magazine, select the skeleton, Tab, Shift A, and it's the same process for any piece that you want to animate. So here is the charging handle. This will be a bit quicker. Okay, so we have 3 new bones for the skeleton. As you can see, they are quite big, so we can scale them down by pressing Tab. So we are in edit mode. You can toggle between them in this drop-down menu, but I prefer to work with the hotkeys. Select these 3 tails and move them, scale them down so they are not so obtrusive. Okay, so we have all the bones we wanted, but they are still unparented to anything. They are just loose bones, and the meshes are not parented to them as well. So right now you want to select the meshes you want to animate, that you have created the bones for, and select them, hit Control Alt P, clear parent, and keep transformation. So now these mesh pieces are unparented, and now just select the magazine, shift left click, so you are selecting the M4 magazine bone, hit Control P to bone. That way the bone is right now the parent of the magazine mesh. Same thing for the charging handle. And the main parent of the whole M4. Okay. So as you can see, when we are moving each bone, the magazine and the charging handle are still in the same position, because they are still loose bones. So we have to create the bone hierarchy that I explained earlier. So as I said, the center spine is the root bone of the skeleton, and we have to parent the main weapon bone to the center spine. So to do that, just select the M4 rifle bone, hit Tab, and in bone properties, in relations, this can be, not drop down, so you just have to go to relations, and here is the parent. Right now it is empty, so select that to center spine, and right now that weapon bone is parented to the skeleton itself. And so the main bone, the rifle itself, is always rifle, pistol, anything. The main bone is always parented to the center spine, and any additional bones like magazine, charging handle, they need to be child of the main weapon body. So select the M4 magazine, hit Tab, parent, M4 rifle. Same for the charging handle. Okay, now the whole gun moves with all its parts when I move the main weapon bone. So yeah, we have created the weapon skeleton for the armature of the character itself, but we still cannot animate that. This is just the setup for the skeleton for Unity and for ER2. In order to start animating, we need to repeat that same process, but for the rig. So when we have that setup, select the rig collection and deselect the Rigroot. So now we have the rig itself. You can deselect the rig meshes so they are not going in our way. Okay, so the same process. Select the main body, main parent of the M4, Shift S, cursor to selected, copy the name, and this will be a bit quicker. With practice it's not that bad. Oh. Oh. Something went a bit weird. Okay. Okay, so we have created the same weapon skeleton for the rig, but as you can see, moving these bones does not do anything, because we need to now constrain the Rigroot bones, so they are following the bones of the rig. So to do that, just deselect the rig and go back to Rigroot, go to pause mode, and start constraining all the 3 bones you just created, so they are following the rig. So to do that, let's start with the main bone. Go to bone constraint properties, and here add bone constraint, copy transforms, target is the rig, and bone is the same name as as the skeleton. So, and you just repeat that for all the remaining bones. So M4 spin, add bone constraint, copy transform, rig, M4 spin. So yeah, now these skeleton bones will be locked. You cannot move them. Now you can move them only inside the rig itself. So yeah, but we are still not done. We need to now decide how the bones, which bones should be parented to which bone of the rig, so it is easier to animate. So the main bone, the M4 one, wait, I need to find it. Yeah. I will simply create the constraint, and I will now create my typical rig setup, and I will explain what I did, because right now I will just select the M4 rifle, add bone constraint, child of rig weapon dummy. Okay. Magazine, the same thing. Okay, so what I just did, so right now I have to explain how the rig itself works. So here are the actions. So I use this for animating different parts of the animation. So like rig 0 is the T-pose. So this is just for setting up the constraints and whatnot. Equip is for equipping weapon, reload empty, partial, anything you do should be done on T-pose, on rig 0. So, okay, so they are here. I simply set up the M4 rifle, so it's following the weapon dummy bone. The weapon dummy is the main weapon controller that will be, when you move this bone, it will simply move the model as well. The idle is the parent of the weapon dummy. It is it is used for making idle animations. So let's go on, let's say reload empty. So when I want to animate the idle, I will just move first the idle, not the weapon dummy, because weapon dummy needs to be zeroed. You know, does not you don't want any transforms on this bone until you are done with the idle. So you want to move that. Somewhere like here. Okay. Once you have done the idle, now you can move the weapon dummy, so you can create reload animations and that sort of stuff. But anyway, let's go back to so I simply created a constraint on the M4 rifle, so it follows the weapon dummy. Since weapon dummy is the child of the idle, it will move along with that. I simply parented the spin, the charging handle, to the M4 because I don't think I will ever move it outside of the gun, unlike the magazine, which I created a constraint that I can simply turn off, so it's not influenced anymore. So yeah, the rig itself is pretty easy to use because it's simply an IK rig, nothing too special about it. And the way you want to set up the hands, or the way I do anyway, is to have in rig 0, so in T-pose, you select the right hand. You want to think how your animation will look like. So do you want, I don't know, so Mac flips or Mac throws, something like that, or which hand will be used for charging the handle. So the way I see in this animation tutorial, I will create a simple reload animation that will have the magazine drop on the mag out sequence and a regular mag in with the left hand. So the left hand will be controlling the magazine, while right will be controlling the charging handle. So select the right hand, in the bone constraint properties, add child of, rig, weapon dummy. It won't be used for the magazine, so this is standard child of the weapon dummy, the main controller, nothing else. While the left hand, we want child of, rig, weapon dummy, and child of, rig, magazine. Now we want the influence on the weapon dummy on 0. So right now this left hand will follow the magazine, not the weapon dummy, but since the magazine itself is following the weapon dummy anyway, the hand will also move along with that. So let me show you what I mean. As you can see, the hand moved. Right now it is so scuffed because we did not make any animation at all. It is just the influences of the constraint are working, so don't worry about this looking weird. And the idle we just moved, So when we are clearing transforms on the idle, it will be, you know, all good. So right now the only thing you need to do is simply animate. Normally I use previously made animations for that, but for the sake of tutorial I will make fresh ones so you can understand what to do. So yeah, starting with the thumb is the pretty good reference point. So start with assembling the hand so it's kinda, you know, where it should be, but not quite. And then start with stretching the thumb so it will be like a reference point for you to know where the hand should be. When you have the problems with the fingers, you can also simply select the end joint of each finger and move it with the, it has the IK constraint on them, so you know you can have fine adjustments with that. I won't be too precise because that tutorial would be quite long, so you know. But the thing is, with the idle is the most important thing you need to do well, because if the idle is bad, then no matter how good the animation will be, like the reload, you know, the way you are holding the weapon is is the 90% of the time you will see the weapon on screen. So you know, make sure you are making well-made idles. Take your time and don't rush it. I mean, I'm rushing it because, you know, the tutorial will be long. you can click on the uniform meshes and hit H if you have problems with visibility. Okay, to bring back the uniform mesh, just select Animesh and hit Alt H. So right now we have the idle ready. I mean, you can make some fine adjustments, like you know, making the shoulders and elbow on the right hand a bit more refined. The thing to remember is that the shoulders can clip with the camera, so the higher the FOV, the bigger the chance that the shoulders can clip. So make sure they are, you know, as far back as they possibly can. So when you have the idle ready, you can, you know, rotate the weapon with the idle bone, so it's not that dull, but we will have it facing straight. Okay. So, as I explained, I had the actions right here. So this is the rig reload empty. But if you want to animate something else, like the partial reload, and click on that, you will see the T-pose will be right here. And the idle animation you just created will be gone. So in order to have it on the other actions, you have to select this. So in the summary, select the keyframe. It will select everything you just created. Hit Ctrl+C and go to reload partial. Select everything with here on the dope sheet. Hit A, Ctrl+V. So you have your start position ready for other animations. Okay, so the thing with the Unity is that you need to have the frame rate by default is 24 FPS, which is not ideal for game animations. I animate in 30, it is my preferable way, but Unity needs 60, so the way I do is set the 30 FPS and animate on that, and then scale the animation by 2 times and scale the timeline 2 times as well. So that way the 60 will be the same as the 30. You can go from the start with 60 and not be bothered with that, but I prefer 30. animation I want to do is like flicking the mag outside and just quickly replace that with the fresh one, and that's it. So, you know, I'm thinking what to do. So generally I'm using timings like by 3, so the 3-step keyframe, so you know, 3, 9, 12, 15. So I will skip to frame 15. Animation process is really complex. There is no right or wrong way to do them. Okay. The really useful thing for this is that you can deselect the rig meshes so the hands are not visible. Select the layer right here. It is only the weapon related layer. That way you can see only the weapon. I like to use that to focus just on the weapon motion itself. So this is my general workflow. Like, I start with what I want to have with the mag out animation, the pose itself, and then, oh yeah, these are the reference cubes, so I can see how the screen would look like. So anyway, what I like to do is have the initial pose of the magazine out sequence, and then fill out the gap with making the weight of the gun animation. When you are the anticipation, when you are about to move the gun up. So right now it is looking rather robotic. So we can either already use the graph editor or just delay some rotations. So I will make the up motion like the Y location earlier and the X axis later. So it is already a lot better that way. You generally want to delay the X axis so it's after the Y location. So Y location is the this motion, and Y and X axis is this. We want to delay these two almost every time. Also the Z axis should be a lot quicker. So yeah, it is now a lot more organic that way. You can also select these keyframes and set them to automatic handles, so it is a lot more exaggerated. So let's see how that looks like. I mean, it's not great by any means, but you know, for the sake of the tutorial and not wasting your time, I will you know, roll with that. Okay, so here is the pose. I will now copy that keyframe, and so I will switch to 21, so this will be the initial mag out pose, and this I will slightly make it a little bit different. Okay, so when you have the first sequence ready, like the anticipation right here, and the mag out pose ready, now select the magazine, hit the keyframe right here, so it will be, you know, ready to use. So it is now on 0 coordinates, and now go 2 frames later, and animate the magazine. So the first 2 frames should be, you know, rather straightforward, no rotations at all. Pay attention where the magazine is behind that square, because, you know, the higher the FOV, the more animation details and errors can be seen. So, you know, make sure this can be, you know, the safe bet that no one would be going further than that, you know. So yeah, the magazine is invisible, so we can push it a little bit further. It is kind of, you know, whatever. But the timing is rather looking good. It's just the animation itself needs some work. Okay, so we now need to animate how the weapon will react to that. So, okay, this is my typical workflow. Like I animate the magazine first, and then I animate the reaction to that, the recoil of the gun. So yeah, 2 frames later. Now I like to copy this initial recoil animation, paste it 3 frames later, select the recoil keyframes, set them to automatic, and wait, as you can see, it kinda settles down by itself, but we can tweak it further. So when once you have the mag out sequence ready, go like frame 56 and animate the pose for the mag in position. Once you have the position ready, select the M4 magazine, hit pause, clear transform, off. So that way the magazine will be in its initial position. So the way it interpolates is, it clips through the gun. So the way I like to animate the mag-in position is to copy the zeroed keyframe right here, like 2 frames, and the same like with the mag out. So 2 frames before we have the magazine right near the magazine well without the rotations, so it's for the the mag in, and copy this keyframe again, move it 5 frames earlier, okay, something went wrong with my recording, so I have finished for the tutorial. It is not a great animation by any means, but I finished the weapon animation, so now I can move to the hands. So in order to bring them, you have these layers. This is for fingers, this is for hands, so you want shift left click them. This is the weapon layer. So yeah, it looks like that. Not too great, but So because the magazine, because the hand, the left hand is the child of the magazine, it moves along with that. So we can simply animate the hand just move where the last 0 position of the mag is and create the pose for that. So I like to first zero out the positions of the fingers, so it's easier to move them. So this can be the most lazy way to make the animations, so you can simply have the same pose as the mag out and reuse it for the mag in, and just once the magazine is inserted right here, just copy the pose 4 frames later. so it's not immediately detached from it. And return to the idle position. So yeah, it's not too pretty, but serves the tutorial right. So when you are done with the animation, simply deselect everything except for the M4. So yeah, you have just the M4 ready. Select the Rigroot, go to pose mode, select everything by hitting A, go to pose right here, select animation, bake action, visual keying, clear constraints, hit OK. So now you have baked the action on the skeleton itself, so it has the same animation as the rig right now. Now you can go to object mode by hitting Control Tab, select everything on the scene by hitting A. When everything is selected, go to File, Export, FBX, create a new folder, folder 4. And right now, these are the default export settings. I have the preset ready, and that makes transform, apply scalings, FBX unit scale. Object type to export only empty armature and meshes. You don't want cameras and other things. Limit to selected objects. And another thing is that you want the simplify to be set at 0. So these are the default settings, and this is for the ER2. So you can screenshot that. Export. Oh, right. You want to name the file so it's different than the Blender name. So you can call it M4 tutorial animation. Okay. And you are done. Marco will explain how to import that animation into Unity and how to work with that. So yeah, thanks.
So we are now back in Unity, and we can first import our gun model. So I created this folder where I want to import my gun model, and I'm gonna paste it inside it. So this is the gun model I fixed at the beginning of the tutorial. So we got the high poly and the low poly version. We can create the material with the textures for it. So to create the weapon prefab, as always, right click on the weapon and choose ER2 mods, weapon template, SMG, which is the good template for a weapon like this. So we can adjust the collision as always. We can create the magazine. We can rename this. Remember, this is the name you're gonna see in the game, so make sure to choose a good one. Since this is a gun with magazine, also remember to set the compatible magazine to the correct one. I'm gonna call this Stan Egg socket. Let's set up the LODs. So this is the high poly and this is the low poly. Also I want my low poly to be in the same position of the high poly. Let's remove the unused LOD layer. And there we go. Let's do the same with the magazine. So let's move the LOD of the magazine to the same position of the high poly. And let's set up the LOD script. Let's finalize all the components. So I want my shells to be ejected from this position. I want my fire position to be in front of the barrel. And I want my camera position to be in a better position when aiming down sight. So let's save our prefab. And let's assign it to a custom asset bundle. Let's call this test anims m4. I assigned both the magazine and the weapon as always. Let's now import the animations exported from Blender by Johnson. So let's first create a folder where to put them. Let's call this animations. Here we got our animations. So let's drag and drop the exported FBX inside the folder. We will see them here. The first thing we want to do is to select all of them and right click and choose ER2 mods, tools, fix as first person animation. This is required so your animation will be compatible with ER2 animation system for first person. Alright, we got our animations and they're working now. The next thing we want to do is to remove them from the FBX file. So let's click this little arrow here. If you have the expanded menu, is this one. And let's choose the file of the animation itself, which is the one with this little triangle. And let's click Ctrl D. Doing like this, the animations will be copied outside of the FBX files. We can now even remove and delete these FBX files. In my case, I will just rename them in same name but ending with FBX. doing like this, I won't get confused by the one I'm choosing. Next, as you can see, these are the animation files we're gonna use. So let's copy the name of them. Let's start by the equip one. Let's go to the weapon, scroll down to the FPS animation data, choose use custom animations here, and put first in the put away, which is the equip animation, the same name of the equip animation you created. Let's do the same with the reload. So let's copy this and let's pass this in the FPS reload full. I will use this as also half reload. So as you can see, we can also make the audio clip for the reload sound and just attach it here. Remember again to set them as use custom, so this animation will be used. And remember to always create a keep animation and at least a reload animation. Some animations might not reload like this, might reload using the chamber animations. So weapons like this can have an animation to open the chamber, for example opening a bolt action rifle. The FPS chamber, which is the loop of inserting your bullets inside the weapon, and animation to close the chamber. You can also have a variation of the closed chamber animation in case you close the chamber when you have no ammo in your weapon. You can have an animation for the barrel change. To do so, you have to put here the name of the animation as always, and to put how many rounds the weapon needs to overheat. Consider that the gun will still cool down after some time. You can also have an animation to bolt action in case your weapon is a bolt action, so this animation will be played every time you fire a weapon. So now, before compiling the mod, let's make sure that our animations are in fact working properly with our weapon, and they're probably actually not gonna work properly because we have to make sure that the name of our weapon prefab is the same we assigned when making the animation. So let's check this. To do so, you can select both your weapon and your magazine and choose ER2 mods, tools, setup animator. This is gonna spawn, as you can see, this animator component, which basically holds the hands, the arms, and the weapon that you also saw when animating the weapon in Blender. Make sure to open your window animation window, which I have here in my case, and make sure that for each of your clips you only have white names. If you have yellow names, you have something to fix. So in fact here I see that my M4 rifle is not found, and the reason is that my weapon prefab is in fact named differently. It's named custom anims M4, so I have to actually adjust this to M4 rifle. Next, I can see that my magazine position needs to be named M4 magazine, so let's go to the magazine position. I rename this to M4 magazine. As you never really animate your magazine but only your magazine positions, you don't have to rename your magazine, just the position where your magazine is gonna be parented to. I can also fix my spin name, which should be M4 spin, and the name of that should be M4 spin. So notice how also the spin is supposed to be directly parented to the M4, which is not. It's parented to M4, then M4 loud, then M4 rifle. So I have to bring this spin outside, but I can't do that here. I have to open my prefab to do so. So let's take the spin and let's parent it on the root of the weapon, so it's in the same position where the magazine and everything else is. And now I will see it correctly here. If I now go to the game view and I play the animation, the keep animation is working properly because it can find all the correct objects of the animations. I can go to the reload animation, play this, and as you can see, also the animation for the reload is working properly. So now that I fixed this, I can save my prefab of my rifle. I can also save my magazine prefab, but I haven't changed it. Make sure that also the name of the prefab is getting the change, because here I renamed this to M4 rifle, but applying the prefab is not enough. I also have to change the name here. I will also adjust the name of my magazine just to match a little bit more the name of the rifle where it's gonna be used. I will call this M4 rifle magazine. Now make sure to add both objects into an asset bundle where you want to build your mod with. Let's rename it just in case also here and here, which are the objects I'm using in this scene to set up the weapon. Notice how the objects inside are already renamed. For example, the spin is now here, just parented to the rifle as expected, and the magazine position is here. Here I was making a mistake, in fact. Luckily I was checking this right now because I have my magazine parented to my weapon prefab, but I don't want this. My magazine needs to be a separate object, so I can delete the magazine from within my M4 rifle, as I already have the prefab here attached to it. So I have my weapon and my magazine as separate objects, and my magazine is not parented here. This can be a common mistake, so make sure always to check your prefab before building. So again, my objects are in my asset bundle, and I can now go to the mod compiler, choose my mod. Before compiling the mod, always remember to check the asset inside the bundle. This will not only confirm to you that everything you did was right, but will also prevent other kind of error to happen, as this check normally also tries to fix eventual error that were left behind. And I can now build my mod. So now that my mod is uploaded, let's go to the Steam Workshop. Here is my mod. I can subscribe to it, triggering the download. And let's now start ER2. So now that we are inside the game, we can check the weapon we created. As always, you can create custom squads inside the mission editor, or just go to the shooting range. So as you can see, the animations are working properly. and everything is just as expected. So this is all for this tutorial. Congratulations for setting up your first custom animations.